So, Fatima, welcome to Deep Talks. How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me and thank you for switching to English. Although I would prefer to have like a good, nice conversation with like the coffee time in Spanish, but because we decided that we're gonna talk about like more details into like freediving and training, thank you for the English interview, the first one.
Yeah, it's a first interview in English, so I'm excited.
Let's get deep into it then.
Yeah. So, what are you doing here in Riviera Maya? Welcome to Riviera Maya.
Gracias. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm here for training. I fell in love with Mexico 8 years ago when I came here before I was a freediver. I was here for scuba diving and I lived here for 5 months.
In playa?
Mostly in playa, but I was like traveling around, spending some time in Tulum, in Mahual, I was in Bacalar, in Isla Mujeres. I was mainly scuba diving and partying, to be honest. But I spent a lot of time in the cenotes with like snorkeling, I wasn't a free diver, but I already started to be very interested in holding my breath a little bit underwater. And I loved going to discover the cenotes, and I always dreamed of like, oh, I really want to go and dive deep in the cenotes. And then I went to Honduras from here, and I did my first freediving course there in Freedive Utila.
Okay.
And after the first dive there, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a freediver.
When was that?
That was in 2018,
Okay.
in March,
Recently.
April.
Not that far away.
Yeah. It was, and then from that on, everything happened very quickly. Basically, I went back home from Mexico because I ran out of money.
Okay.
After I finished my dive master course, and then from that on, I never wanted to dive with the tanks again. Yeah. Although I really like it, it was just something very different. Like I really felt like that I found myself with freediving. And even though I wasn't the person at that moment that I imagined myself as a freediver or someone who has a lifestyle of a freediver, but then I wanted to grow into that person. So I started to do changes. Again, I saved money. I did the huge research on the internet where I can get, like no limitation training and do all my courses and then be an instructor. And then I chose the hub.
The hub. So what do you mean when you say no limitation training?
Although I really love Mexico and I know you can train freediving here, but I knew there are some limitations because of the depth.
Okay.
And I knew if I go to Dahab, then there is Dahab, there is Sharm. They used to have very regular competitions, like every month. So for me, it was important to have like all the options there because I didn't have that much money. So I was like, okay, I go here, I spend there like a very intensive, 6-7 months. I do all my courses, I do one competition. I signed up for my first competition before I arrived there. I was so sure that I'm gonna do this. I didn't want it to be a competitive athlete, but I knew if I'm an instructor and I wanted to be like a bit more experienced. Or have some achievements. So I was like, if I'm an instructor and I have a national record, and it was like quite easy to dream about that, being a Hungarian person, because the male national record, the deepest at that point was 46 meters. And on the first course with apnea total, you do 21 meters, and it was like this. I had no problem with the
That was in Guatemala, right? The first course.
Honduras, in Utila.
Sorry, in Honduras. That was apnea total was the school you were doing it?
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know that the first course you had to go to 21 meters.
Yeah, it was, for me it was perfect, you know, like I did not learn much actually at that point, because I already watched all the YouTube videos and read everything that's possible on the internet about like beginner freedivers, and I already did one single dive in Tenerife to 18 meters. So from 18 to 21, I just quickly calculated that's gonna be like no difference. So it wasn't like something like wow for me. The experience was the same. I'm like, I went down, I'm like, I'm looking up, you watch the sun rays dancing on the waves, and you're just there, and then you look more down and you're like, I want to go deeper.
Question, you were mentioning that you went to the hub because over there is no limitation on freediving. Is it cheaper than Riviera Maya?
Oh, it used to be much cheaper. I don't think so now. There is a huge difference because you have to. I used to be a backpacker back then. I was like really not going for like quality in terms of like just like lifestyle and safety wise. For example, when I started, well, obviously I learned a lot since then, and my standards are pretty like high now. So no limits. That was like, I didn't want it to just like go to Egypt and be like, okay, like I run out of money in like 2 or 3 months, so I can't continue my training because I ran out of money, so I'm gonna have to find a job.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to start working in anything else. Like I went there, I saved money. I used to work with kids in hotels, so I saved money in Spain, and then I went to Egypt. And then after my first competition, that's when I realized, like, okay, I am really going to stay here because it is actually a sport, and there are people there competing, and they're going to world championships. And I'm like, I want to go to a world championship, and no one from Hungary has been participating at a depth world championship before, so I was the first one. So from that on, I started to train, and I was very happy that I've chosen the hub for my place to do all my courses and do my training, because it was super cheap.
Apnea and Total?
Oh no, no, that was a lot of things happen. I don't really like institutional education. I'm not really a firm believer. I have very good friends. I know very knowledgeable, good instructors, so I know it can be done in a proper way, and also having like some personalized approach to those, you know, mass educations. But myself, I don't like it. My courses were not really the best, to be honest, in terms that I could easily do all the requirements all the time, and mostly everyone was focusing on the requirements.
Okay.
And I felt like I could have learned so much more from that, because the main point of a course is not that you just barely do the requirements, but you actually get deeper in it, and you have the knowledge, and you have the confidence, and then, you know, you get answers to your questions, and then you get better. Not than the other people then, but yourself.
Okay.
And I felt like that was missing from my education. And so I think maybe that's why my own training in freediving that really turned into this, like, I don't want to be limited by other people's misbeliefs or not understanding like how training has to be very personal for everyone. I'm a natural reverse packer, so there could have been like limitations from that, but because there was the depth, and I started to train with all kinds of people in the hub, and then yeah, I felt like during those 8 months, every small limitation I had, I kind of could like go over it, because I went there with that mindset that I don't want to have any limitations. So either when someone was saying that, I don't know, this is not gonna work, you're gonna have a problem with this or that, or I was like running low on money, or like anything that was coming up, I always came up with the solution, which is like the best approach to life and to freediving training.
Do you consider like over there in the hub there's like this mindset, like a strong mindset, where if you have a limitation, you are gonna have like good guidance and help you to like unlimit these limitations? Do you consider that like?
Depends.
Okay. But for you happened that way, right? Like when you went to the hub, you started to have like this like unlocking like these limitations that you were having.
Again?
Like you were sharing like when you were in the hub, like all these limitations that you didn't want to be around on this like mindset that was like limitation mindset. But then in the hub you felt like it was like unlimited, like you somehow remove those limitations over there. Am I understand correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer it in this way that I think the more challenges and more limitations you have, and the more things people or life is throwing at you, the stronger you're going to come out on the other side if you learn how to handle it. I think my first 1 year in Egypt was like the worst part of my life. I felt really not connected with the community. I felt like a total outsider. And but then in the water, I was like totally myself. And maybe because I was like really training super hard in the gym and outside and dry training, and I wasn't going out. I was being very disciplined. I was totally sober, and everything at that time in Dahab wasn't really reflecting my way of how I was approaching my training and the change of my life. So I think when you have these and you can still stay true to yourself or whatever is your plan, and that kind of opens up doors for you, and then you're going to be limitless because then you're not being influenced by outside things or other people, and then it's fucking lonely sometimes and it's hard, but then you set your path and then you can achieve amazing things.
Limitless, that's the word I was looking for, and I have the two here. Okay, yeah, that was the word that I was looking for. Nice, thank you for sharing. That's really a strong message. So you were sharing that you are natural rivers packer. That's what you were sharing. Can you tell me more about it?
Well, there are the lucky ones.
Okay.
And there are the unlucky ones. The unlucky ones are the people in terms of freediving, obviously, because they can be very lucky people on land in their life. The unlucky ones are the ones who do Valsalva, right? When they are not aware of how they can equalize without contracting their diaphragm and their abs. It's really hard to change from that, and honestly, I'm not an EQ expert, probably because of that, because I never had that issue. So I'm one of the lucky ones.
Nice.
I started to dive to maximum of 5 meters when I was very little, like 6 years old, but in the pool. So I grew up in Hungary. So my parents, they told me like, yeah, you have to pinch the nose, blow in it, and you hear the pop, and then you can go down to the bottom of the pool. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I grew up like that. So I was like, I didn't have to think about it, like how this goes. So when I started freediving, it was just like, oh yeah, you do the same. Like you pinch your nose and you go down. So when I arrived to Dahab, I already had like 3 sessions in freediving before, so that wasn't much training. So I did that like course, and before that I had like 1 session in Tenerife. So when I arrived to Dahab, I didn't even want to put on my mask, because I'm like, I want to look deep inside me. I don't want freedive on the line to like look around. I just wanted to really experience this deep diving, this active meditation. So I started to dive with a nose clip from like dive 1 in Dahab.
Nice.
I used to be a synchronized swimmer, So for me, having a nose clip on my face and not having anything around my eyes, and it was something very natural. It felt like home again, but more safer, because, you know, like the synchronized swimmer or the swimmer nose clips are these like tiny small ones, and they always fell, and then they always kick you in the face underwater, and then it drops, and then you have water in your nose, blah, blah, blah. So I had a lot of experience like that as a kid athlete. So when I like got my nose clip, and I'm like, this is this huge nose clip, and then I just put it on my nose, and it just stays there forever, and then I don't have to pinch my nose, and then I can just like dive down and like, you know, do whatever I want with my hands. So it was like magic for me. It was like, it's so good. So EQ was not really a thing for me until I got to 50 and like a few sessions. And then everyone started to tell me like, oh yeah, it's probably because you reverse back. Oh, it's like, you're gonna black out very soon because you dive deep too quickly. Oh, you're gonna, you know. So like, there are the people who are not the lucky ones, or the ones who had to work, you know, for a long time for, you know, to achieve a certain depth. So they can put sometimes like these, like no faith, kind of negative vibes into it. So that's where I started to have some fear from my abilities.
You were going to 50 meters without using, for example, mouthfeel technique.
I went all the way to 85 without using mouthfeel, because I had the deal with myself that I'm not gonna learn mouthfeel until I get into my limit with my current natural way of equalizing.
85 meters.
Yeah, but there at the 80s, it wasn't consistent anymore. So sometimes if you miss with like a tiny second, not even a second, if you're not like perfect with the timing of the reverse back, you're out from the window, and then it creates already the pressure, and then you can't use that EQ. So yeah, obviously it's much more comfortable and safer with the mouthfeel, but if you go like below 80. But actually, if you have the flexibility and you have the knowledge and you work on the tiny details, then actually the mouthfeel is not really necessary as for like a beginner or an intermediate freediver. I'm not gonna say now any depth, but like mouthfeel is already something like complicated, and there are so many things that you should learn first and be self-aware about, and mouthfeel is something very like it's unnatural. My first reason, besides like I want to be natural with my EQ, was that you look not sexy with the mouthfeel. I'm like, I don't want to look like this hamster underwater.
Because of the dive eye?
No, it's just like for myself. I don't know. It's like, no, I don't know.
Okay, guys, for you guys that you don't know what's a mouthfeel or how it looks like, it's like,
like it's a hamster.
Question, when you are doing reverse back, it means that you take a little of air from the lungs and then you do the equalization?
Yeah, like the difference between a mouthfeel and a reverse back, then a mouthfeel is actually filling your mouth, and usually it comes with the sound, and it has to come, the mouthfeel, before you would reach a certain depth. So like most of the deep free divers, we would do mouthfeel between 15 and 30. It's very unusual if someone is doing mouthfeel below 30, I would say. The reason is before you would reach your residual volume, you can just take out the air much easier. The reverse back, it doesn't have that limitation. Again, it's like, it has limitations, but it's not like the mouthfeel. It has to be more precise, and it's much smaller, and it's teachable, so people can learn it. But I think with EQ, everyone has to find their own way, and if it's natural for someone, it's great. If it's not natural for someone, I think those people can stick with the mouth fill. And not everyone has to dive to 100 meters, obviously, or deeper. So whatever is more comfortable for the people. But mouth fill is not the only way. And reverse pack is something very, very tiny movement. A lot of people, they think you have to like force the air up, but it's just like really a tiny amount of air that goes up. That's why you have to be super quick because of your speed going down and the pressure change.
Okay, interesting. And that's so good that you're sharing this, because each person has a different system, and it's good to understand that it's not standardized. Like you can start with this equalization technique, other people start with a different technique. So it's really interesting that. So, Fatima, question: are you the deepest free diver in free immersion?
Depends. I have currently still the world record in the AIDA system with the 102 meter. I've been down to 104. And the CIMAS world record now is Alessia's, who is obviously the queen of freediving.
Alessia Cecchini.
Which is a great honor to even be mentioned in the same paper. I started freediving pretty, lately, like a few years ago. Having the COVID and all my injuries in the last years, I really feel like I was never in my best shape. Actually, like having this achievement from almost 2 years ago, and I'm still having it on my name, is actually pretty epic, and I should be, and I am proud of it.
No mames, Fatima.
Yeah, actually, I love free immersion. It's the basis of freediving. Is something that if you learn it the proper way, is gonna help all the other disciplines that you're choosing. Because of the way how it is, how you can work on EQ, how you can work on dive time. It's like slow, so it builds up confidence, dive time, and so much other things. And it's actually pretty technical if you're trying to go deep. That's why some people, usually men, they think if you train fins, like mono or the bifins, then you can just dive deep with the free immersion. And then some people end up having very unpleasant dives because, the free immersion is much slower than having your Ferrari fins on, who basically take you on their own to the depth. So I think free immersion is a very beautiful discipline, and it's very close to freestyle swimming, and I love freestyle swimming. It's basically you're like dancing with the rope up and down, and I really love it. But it's actually not my favorite discipline. I always wanted to train for no fins, but I had an injury with my knee, and then I had an injury. I broke my ligament in my ankle, and then I have a labrum tear in my hip now. So I was stuck with free immersion.
Okay. Yeah, also free immersion for me is my favorite technique. I really love it. I feel more comfortable with my upper body, and yeah, like for me it has been a really good journey starting on free immersion. I'm agree with you that it's also good to learn the technique, like the equalization technique there. In case you have something, you can stop.
Yeah.
So Fatima, 102 meters. Is that correct?
Yeah.
3 minutes 47 seconds took you that dive?
That's
That's
it.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you, ChatGPT.
No mames, it's
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
I asked it
ChatGPT.
on ChatGPT. Thank you so much. Shout out to ChatGPT. 102 meters. 3 minutes 47 seconds. How was the dive?
It was a really, really good dive. Honestly, I was nervous, but not because of I'm pretty good with nervousness before the competition. I am nervous. I'm always excited. I'm excited about anything and everything all the time. Like this is part of my personality. But I'm still doing the things. Like I used to be like a child competitive synchronized swimmer, so I remember that feeling from those years. But this time I was nervous because I had a hole in the middle of my palm. Like that was an actual hole in the middle of my palm because I was working out in the gym, and then I spent a lot of time in the water, and it was a new rope on vertical blue, and because you pull the rope very strong, and I went there after like working out a lot in the gym, that pulls, they ripped off my skin.
My God.
And that was this deep hole in the middle here, and it was actually pretty painful. So I did the dive before already on training, and then I was giving it some rest, and I was using this fake skin glue thing. So I was hoping that it will, like be okay for the competition. So like the first day of the competition, I didn't announce the world record because I was still hoping that it's gonna the skin's gonna grow back, and I'm not gonna have that pain when I'm trying the world record. But then it didn't go away. But then all my dives were very nice. And I was like, I'm going to have just white cards this season, so I don't want to risk anything. And then I just announced it because I felt very confident, even with the hole in my palm. So the next day, I was already like totally prepared because I did the dive before, already the year before. I did it actually happened on the competition. So this time it was my 4th world record attempt already, and every time I did a different mistake. So like when this 4th time came, I was like, okay, what can go wrong? Whatever it is, like I can correct it afterwards. And then I started the dive, and then it was just everything kind of perfect with the way down, and then how it went, and the feelings. The EQ was good. The turn was really euphoric. I'm like, okay, you got the tag, you're down there, you can go up, oh my God. And then it's a long way up. So obviously you have to have a lot of like mental training to, just really stay present, because you want to celebrate, when you're the halfway through. Especially because I had one of my world record attempts that was not validated because I could not find the tag.
Okay.
This time I found the tag, and everything was great on the way down and the turn. So on the way up, I just like talked to myself that I love it and I have to keep going. And then at the end, I already felt that I'm getting tired because I didn't have the best suit and the best weights for this dive, to be honest. But I was using whatever I had at that point. So I knew it's gonna be probably already harder because I was in the Bahamas already for a month and a half, almost, something like that. And I haven't been in the gym for that time.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
So, too much deep dives, very hot, and with my nice hole in my palm. So at the end, I was like, okay, I will try to really slow down, because at the end, of my dive, I really try to slow down even more, because I know if I can keep my relaxation like fully and just like surrender to the last part, then I'm just gonna float back to the surface, whatever happens. And I really try to enjoy that last part. You already have like this cloudy urge to breath because you've been underwater for almost 4 minutes basically, but then, you know, after so much training, you're not giving in to that feeling. You're just like there somewhere on the side, and there's this other weird feeling of being high, honestly.
Being high?
Yeah. I guess you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, you're underwater, you're in another universe, you're coming back from this deep self-discovery journey while you were staying in the present, and especially in the blue hole, which is really, it's like the cenotes, but it's not like the cenotes. Like you're coming back from this huge depth, from the darkness, with like this minion that's following you with the dive eye, which makes it a little bit more, just, I don't know, weird and a little bit more challenging to stay really present and focus. But that's like meditation. It's like, it's not perfect. You're not empty, but you always manage to bring back your thoughts to the present. So that's what you do on a dive. So that's what I was doing on that dive. And then the last few, like 10 meters were very, very exciting, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost to the surface. And like, there are all the people. But I was starting to just be in my dive. It's something very intimate when you're deep diving, when you're diving. And I think a lot of athletes, they can like relate, not just freedivers, but like athletes in general. It's about your performance. It's like you are there against you, but then so many people are watching. And freediving is not even like a, you know, like a mass sport, so not many people are watching. But I think, I don't know any other sport that's more intimate than freediving. So when you're breaking the surface and you're coming back, it's, I think for me, it's always something very, well, first of all, it's a rebirth every single time when you take a breath, especially after the deeper the dive, the bigger the rebirth. And then it's really hard to get back into like reality and full focus to like do the perfect protocol. So I was very happy that Pedro was there for me, because
Pedro was coaching you.
Yeah, Pedro was there.
Shout out to
me.
Pedro.
Yeah, Pedro. Te quiero. So we were training together with Pedro Tapia, and I really needed him there. You don't do these dives, you don't do anything alone. Like, you need your people, your team with you. So so I was very happy that he was there. I was actually, after my dives, I have this like bad habit that I start to like smile, right? A bad habit, well. So I start to smile, so that's why I can like not start to breathe right away. So I was starting to breathe right away, like in the aggressive way that you actually should sometimes when you're actually hypoxic. So like when I heard Pedro, and I was just trying to look like a princess, you know, coming back from the dive. And then, but I didn't look like a princess because I was hypoxic. So then I heard Pedro and I'm like, wait, what? I have to remove this nose clip. And when I removed the nose clip, like all the oxygen just like boom went back to my head. And then I was like, okay, protocol. And then show it, say it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I said it. And then, yeah. And then I had also the tag. So yeah, that moment was really great. I didn't felt like when you're planning something big and then you achieve it, and then you think before you achieve it, like, oh yeah, that's gonna be like the best, and I'm just gonna be like the happiest ever when you know, like when you achieve it. And it's like, nah. I was actually very happy and I was proud of myself, but when at the point I achieved it, I'm like, okay, but then I already remembered that already at that day, like, okay, this was my mistake, this I can do better. I think that's like also a personality trait that people can work on, because obviously you have to celebrate and then be happy and be proud of yourself, which for me for the next month was very, very, very busy, because I was invited to a lot of TV shows and interviews and commercials.
Back in Hungary?
Back in Hungary. Yeah. But the dive itself, I really enjoyed it, but it was far from being perfect.
Of course.
But it's more important to enjoy your dive than to, aim to be perfect.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. I think that every dive is like feedback. It's like a meditation where you can observe. So I think that's the beauty of the sport, that you can improve with every dive. It would be interesting that you share us like how was your technique, like the technical aspect of your dive when you did the 102 meters. How was it like? Can you explain us how was your preparation, your full breath? Like, we would like to know it.
Well, the dive starts at the surface, so my time in the water is very short. I don't do warm-ups, so I like go in the water like 5 to 8 minutes before the dive. Otherwise, I would get cold. So yeah, I go in the water, I go to the line, I have there my routine, what I'm doing, how I'm cleaning my nose, I have my sips of water until like the last 2 minutes usually. And then the last 2 minutes is like the full on super, like I can't hear or see anything anymore from the outside world, which is already part of the dive. And I do packing. With the years, it's getting more and more actually.
Like how many? Do you count them?
Yeah, I do now like 16.
Wow.
Usually something, yeah, 15, 16. I usually lose count with like 1, 2 packs. I'm not sure, but something like that. Yeah, I started with 5 before, yeah, and then it slowly went up. Yeah, and then I'm gonna go back then actually. So your dive actually starts the day before when you announce it.
Okay.
So when I announced it, I'm like, okay, I did this dive, the exact dive already, like a few days before. So when you announce your dive, you have, the start list, you know when you have to be there. So you have to count back. Okay, did I had enough for dinner? When I have to wake up, when I go to the bathroom, what I'm gonna have for breakfast. I set all the alarms. The alarms are usually set when I already announced. So you just have it there and it's done. I have an alarm for my first mouthfeel, and then I have for a charge, and then I have one for my free fall. And then I have another one just before the plate, like 3 meters before for the turn.
3 meters before, okay.
Yeah. My mouthfeel charge, I usually take the first one around 18. So I have the alarm at 16, and then, yeah, by the time I actually take it, depending on how it's the rhythm coming, it's usually somewhere around 18. And then the next one, the alarm, usually I have it at 24. So then the next charge, I usually have it like after like 25, 26, 27 maybe, depends on. This is not like that at the beginning of the season, because the more time I spend in the water, and then the deeper I go, the more flexible I'm becoming. So this is the this is the top form at that point. Then I don't really like the free fall, which might sound weird for many freedivers, but it's not my favorite part of the dive. It's very challenging for me. The way how my body is, is just, I'm more like a starfish. We always make fun of me and my free fall. So my legs, they open up, my arms, they also open on the side. So yeah, for me, it's always, that's the slowest part. So the first part of the dive, I do like these very small, very quick pulls, which helps me to overcome the buoyancy, which I have it extra because I'm trying to bring less weight with me. So I'm actually pretty buoyant. Usually my neutral buoyancy is around 17 meters. It can be sometimes that it's actually deeper for free immersion and for bifins. So I like to pull the line deeper because I don't feel super comfortable with the long free fall. So, but obviously I change my style, how I pull the line. So I change also which like muscle groups I'm using during that. So like the first is like very quick, and then
And short, right?
and short,
Okay.
and then slowly, like how you go deeper and deeper, I change the length of the pull and also the rhythm. I don't I don't have the alarm for that. It's like the mouthful is something different, but I always go with the feeling, and then everywhere you dive or the suit that you have, the weight you have, your body is changing during the season and from season to season. So you always have to, yeah, like find your own rhythm in the water and with yourself for free immersion. So with the pools getting bigger and bigger, I'm gliding more and more, and then I do have the free fall alarm, usually at like 45 meters, but I don't start it. So if I don't feel ready, and for some reason I'm like, no, I want to do like one more, and then I want to do one more, then I do one or two more or whatever. So like I have the alarm there just like as like something that it's like telling me I'm there, but I don't have to do it if I don't feel like it or I'm not ready for that. So so when I'm ready for the free fall, then I'm like going into it, and that part is all about like trying to relax and then find the, you know, like the position and the relaxation. So I'm super relaxed in my starfish position, but it's super bad for free falling because you're not hydrodynamic with like wide open legs. So for me, it's always an effort to try to stay hydrodynamic in the free fall position. So I'm always like trying to find my relaxation. The EQ is something that if my mouthfeel works well and it's perfect, that's like obviously ideal. But if it doesn't work well, then I can reverse back. So I always have option B.
Wow.
Yeah, so the air is there. You just have to find it. So when you turn, I usually don't like overcomplicate it. I have this the place for the tag on my suit, and I just spend there a few seconds. Except if I can't find the tag, then it happened before that I stayed down there for a little bit longer. But ideally, you also have to train that, like how you're grabbing the tag and exactly where you're putting it. So when you are having your dry sessions, when you're doing your preparation for the dives, and you have to visualize every single part of the dive, including with grabbing a tag and where you put it. So when that's done and on the way up, I always use first like small pulls again, because that helps with the acceleration with the speed, and then I also slowly like switch to the gliding. I had a shoulder accident. I had a tear in my rotator cuff. So because of that, my right shoulder is not functioning properly. So because of that, I sometimes have these half pulls on the way up. That's like just specific for me coming from my injury. And then actually I feel like comfortable with that, because with like all the time having the same amplitude and the same gliding, it can like tire your muscle in a way that when you do just a half pull, it just gives them like a shake, like a wake up, and then I just change the rhythm, but it's still in my rhythm, those half pulls. I don't know if you've ever seen me doing the half pulls, but it's a thing for me. Yeah, I also don't always do, because I don't know always like the full pull down because of the injury. So if someone has ever seen my dive where I did that, it's because I'm much stronger from my biceps and shoulders and back, and then the rotator cuff is giving me some issues with the down pull movement.
Okay.
And floating up to the surface is I started at like 15, because I'm like neutral buoyant, like quite deep. So I start to like float up, and I just try to.
The angels help you.
Yeah, they're just like people are around you there. They're all the safeties. So it's basically nothing can happen. When you see your safeties, it's always like, oh yeah, I'm like, they're here. I'm good.
Yeah, I when I refer to the angels, I refer to the buoyancy. When you're already positive, it's like someone is carrying you. You're just there, like, doing the start.
Mean like,
The angels carry you, like.
Yeah. Well, we would literally have there the angels.
Yeah, like the safeties as well.
Yeah, so it's full, everyone is on your side there. Yeah.
That's so nice. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, definitely to go through that journey and to go to the depth that you already achieved. You can tell it needs a lot of discipline, a lot of focus, and also it's not only like let's take a full breath and let's go. Like it's already like a whole preparation before doing it, and that's really interesting that we can share to our audience like what it takes, like all the background, because sometimes we only see like the top of the iceberg, but like we can see that there is a whole journey behind that. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I can share.
Yeah. Honestly, that's one of the intentions of these talks. Like we can share the journey of others, of how they do it, what's their philosophy, what's their lifestyle. And you were mentioning like the philosophy that you're like you have a philosophy on the free diving, and honestly I'm really interested on listening to that philosophy. So yeah, tell us more about it.
So I always wanted to like share whatever I have or I learned with the other people, like as the act of service, which is very important for, finding individual happiness for people. I don't know how much you know about like Japanese philosophy. Like finding your ikigai is something that I can really relate. It's something that I got from my father, who had no clue about Japanese philosophy. But my father always told me from when I was little that you have to find something that you love. And if you do that with all your heart and you are putting all the energy and effort and the necessary investment in it, then you're going to be good. And if you just keep doing it, then you're going to be the best or one of the best. And then you're going to be happy. And then he always added, like, I don't care what you're choosing to do. Like, you can sell orange juice on the beach, or you can be an engineer, or you can be a tour guide or whatever. But then, have this in your mind. And then I became a free diver. He didn't expect that. But so when I was telling my parents that I'm gonna do free diving, and they were listening for 2 years, my ideas that I'm gonna become an underwater tour guide, like be a scuba diver, and they were already like very surprised on that, because it was a big change from my previous life from before, when I was a project manager, tour guide, working in the tourism. And then when I found free diving, they were like, okay, so maybe you should just stick with the normal diving and with the tank and the oxygen. And I just read back all the conversation with my mom on Messenger a few days ago. I really felt nostalgic. And I had also some voice messages there to my mom when I was actually explaining her the same philosophy that I still have now, and how I approach training, and how I think about freediving. And yeah, that didn't change, although I'm deeper now and I know much more. But my idea with freediving was that I would like to do something that it's helping me to be a better person, and then finding a way that I can inspire others to also live their dreams and try to be limitless, in a sense that that it's still healthy and they're taking care of themselves, right? So I never wanted to do freediving because I want to push and do something that is going to, you know, just prove something that I'm better than anyone else. I found freediving and I started to do it because I had my own issues with my balance, and I was trying to find myself, and I had also like the health part. I was having a very unhealthy lifestyle before, and I was just not being myself. And I think freediving is just helping you to become the person, like seeing and showing the true, you know, like the true you. And then, to be honest, it's not always very pleasant or very nice. It doesn't mean that you become a freediver and then you're just gonna be a very nice person and everyone will love you. No, it means you're becoming a freediver and you're gonna find yourself, and then you're gonna have to face yourself. And whatever you face there, that's you. And then it's your decision to do whatever you want to do with that information. Now you can decide to change and be better, do something different, or you can just, you know, like not do that. So for me, freediving was a very eye-opening thing, and I go a little bit more with like the spiritual part. I know it's a sport and I do very hard training for it, but when I'm doing freediving in the sea, which has a soul, and it's something like a very deep connection with the water and you and the nature, then I really have a lot of respect for that. And I think everyone should go with this attitude towards like deep freediving. You can have like the pushing through the pain, kind of like the Olympic kind of sport attitude in like the pool freediving, but I think it's not working with depth. I think it's the most unique sport ever that exists. I mean, I don't know. You know any other sport that is like more unique than freediving in terms of physiology or what's happening with like the deep diving into yourself, or even the scientists are just like still trying to figure out exactly what's happening. It's a super new sport. When I started in Hungary, it didn't even exist as a sport. Like from the Diving Federation, they were asking me like, oh yeah, so it's like, we don't know what it is, but good luck. So I was like, yeah, thank you. I'm already a world champion, so yeah. Yeah, so freediving, I think it should be about like trying to be as true to yourself as possible, and with respect towards yourself and others, and take care of each other and form a community where we have the same goals. And it doesn't mean that we are perfect and everyone has to be happy with everyone and we all love each other. That was kind of my idea first before I started freediving, because I was watching too much Adam Stern videos. I don't know if Adam is watching, but hey,
Shout out to Adam. What's up, mate?
So he was like, oh, hello, freediving family. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a freediver. I'm going to be part of the freediving family. And then we all love each other. And it's going to be so great. And then I started freediving and it wasn't like that. So I was pretty sad about it for some time. Yeah. So high expectations. But then you find your own people. And that's why it's beautiful, the freediving, because then I know it's a sport, right? Yes, it's a sport. But then it's so much more than a sport. It's a lifestyle. It shows you community. It connects you with like-minded people. And I think like that intimate experiences that brings people together on those depth trainings. Like I have so many beautiful, souls on my journey that I met, that I spent very short time together. But then because of the depth that you're experiencing life, literally and also metaphorically, it kind of helps you to connect with the right people on the right way, I think. So, yeah.
Nice. Honestly, I'm really excited to do the edition of this interview, because what you just shared is so powerful, and thank you for sharing that mindset. And yeah, I'm agree on what you're sharing. That more about of focusing on the competition, like more on yourself. Like it's a constantly deep talk with yourself, and I really like the way how you see it, and I think that's one of the main reasons why you achieve the depth that you already have right now. Yeah. I think the way how I see it is like somehow, for example, when I was in my 40s, in my 40s meters, for me was like something didn't allow me to go to the 50s, and I was like reviewing, and then I did more introspection, then I did more research about the sport, and allows me to go to 50s. And then from 50s to 60s, the same, like the process of having this like feedback with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes happens in the sport that there is just a guy that just finished the first level, and then 3 months later he's already deep, and then the competition can start like, oh, how this guy, and I already been like this many years, and why, and I feel that when you start to compare with yourself with others, that's when you lost track of your journey. And yeah, I think that's when you feel more stuck. So I'm agree that it's you versus you, and this constantly evolution.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to just really not get the toxic motivation sometimes if you look at the people from the same sport, because it's just you're comparing it, and then you're like, you start to compare yourself. It's really hard not to. So, for example, what I do is I'm giving motivational speeches and I'm doing workshops for non-freedivers. So if I'm with the people in their corporate jobs and they listen to my story, they're never gonna imagine like how they can, or they want to get to 100 meters. There's no way they want to go there, right? But then from my example, they're having their own motivation for their own challenges for their life. So I think as like athlete, or as someone who's actually working towards to achieve something, it's not for your own selfish reasons to that I want to achieve this. Yeah, obviously I want to, but then you always have to have a higher purpose that you're like serving something with that. And that's how you can keep your discipline, because their motivation, like, yeah, I want to go to 120 meters, is like, it's not enough. Like, why you want to go? And then you remember why you're going to go, and that has to be part of your philosophy. So it's like, okay, what's your personality? Why are you doing this? Like, what's your goal? And then when you don't have the motivation sometimes, then you remember the why, and then you get back to your, you know, being disciplined. So, and you just can't stop that, because then what happens with your purpose and what happens with the people that, you know, like you could actually influence in a positive way with what you're doing if you're not giving up in the hard, challenging periods. So yeah, but it doesn't have to be so, like, you know, highly motivated. Yeah. It can be something as simple as, like, I would like to provide to my family. I would like to be a great example for my kid, or, you know, I would like to be a healthier person, to actually find a partner that is gonna be by my side. You know, like, these things are also very, very important.
Yeah.
And then when you have this, then you just put that into your freediving, and then there you go.
Thank you for sharing. It's really good insights. Like, honestly, for me also gives me perspective in this journey.
I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, back to my first question. You are here in Riviera Maya. So, is there some projects coming that you would like to share? Is there some workshops that you are going to do here in Riviera Maya?
Yeah, with Pedro, who was my great friend. He was there for my world record. We are training together. I was here last year. Also, we did a workshop together, which was amazing. And we're planning to do also a workshop now at the beginning of April.
Okay.
And I like to come to Mexico, and I'm trying to come every year. So this is going to be something that's going to happen every year. We already decided. So, but this time we're going to have this in April. It's kind of really like last minute already how we decided how it's going to happen. But then we have the plan that now we're going to announce it way before for next year. So I hope to come back next year already at the beginning of February.
Okay.
So that's usually the time when I'm coming, because that's my birthday month. So that's the plan. It's cold in Europe. I usually do my workshops in Hungary for non-freedivers during the winter. And then I like to come here for like doing the base training and doing the shallower dives, getting back a little bit to depth. I love the gym here.
Evolve, you go to Evolve.
So good. That's just so good. Yeah, and it goes so good pool training. So you have everything here in Mexico and more that you need for like happy life and freediving. So yeah, like having my tostadas and tacos and ceviche, I'm like the happiest person ever. So it's great for base training, and the most important is that you have to be happy with the training. Because training is hard. Like it's easy to sit at home and watch Netflix, but then you go and you train, and it's hard, but it's so much more satisfying. So that's why I'm here, to connect, to be happy, to eat good Mexican
tostadas,
food.
So there's gonna be a workshop with the deepest Mexican freediver Pedro Tapia, and also the deepest Hungary diver Fatima Korok. It's gonna be at the beginning of April, so you can contact them in their Instagram. I'm gonna put the Instagram there, so you guys can contact her. And I probably, if I'm here, I'm gonna be there, because I'm really interested on keep learning from you guys.
Yes,
so
welcome.
Feel free to text them, and it's gonna be so nice. So thank you so much for this interview. It was really a pleasure to have you here. I hope we can have next episode soon on your next year that you're coming. Will be really interesting on
Definitely
the evolution that you're gonna have from this year to the other. It's gonna be so interesting. And also, thank you so much for your trust and for sharing all your insights. Me and my audience, we are going to be so grateful with this episode.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a lovely chat.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias.
Gracias,
Sí.
gracias.
Ok.
Bueno, a huevo.
Venga.